clearly stated well, sleep apnea, it's one of those factors that can lead to that. So can you make the connection for us as to why it's important for people to get some sleep and
Yeah,
why it can help?
so fascinating. So the quickest way to completely wreck your metabolism is not sleep. And so one of my favorite studies is they took these young kids at the height of their mitochondrial powers, and they'd even done oral glucose tolerance tests on them, college kids, and like they were 20 years old, and they had no insulin resistance even on oral glucose tolerance test. And so then they took half the group and they sleep deprived them less than 4 hours a night. And they took the other group and said, hey, sleep as much as you want. After 5 days, half of the sleep deprived group had levels consistent with prediabetes on their oral glucose tolerance test. 5 days. And so, I mean, it takes a long time of doing absolutely nothing and eating total trash to get to prediabetes, but it takes 5 days in order if you're not sleeping. So that's phenomenal, right? And if you're stressed when you should be at rest, you're never going to get anywhere. And I think it's actually a beautiful parallel of metabolic health to spiritual wellness. And I talk about this specific case in the last chapter of my book. I had a patient and her hemoglobin A1C was 12.6 when she came to me. And that's, her average blood sugar is like well over 300. I mean, not good, really on the struggle bus. And so I'm like, okay, well, I've seen this a million times. She still made insulin, and so her C-peptide was high normal. And so I'm like, all right, well, this is cool. We can do this. We can reverse your diabetes. And so I've seen this a lot of times, and it's cool to do that. So I put her on some really good medications, the magic sauce, and I put her on a specific dietary regimen that pretty much works every time if you do it. And she came back after a couple months, and usually people have dramatic success. And her hemoglobin A1C went from 12.6 to 9.8. So 6.5 is type 2 diabetes, by the way. So 9.8 is still not good at all. I mean, it's better than 12.6, but we went from absolutely terrible to still terrible. I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. And she had a continuous glucose monitor, and her morning blood sugars were like sky high, like the highest of the whole day. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so we talked about, have you been doing the dietary thing, all this, yep. And so she she seemed pretty straight up. And so I was like, okay. And so I said, okay, let's keep on with this and let's check back, in another month or so. Comes back, no progress whatsoever. And she was really frustrated. And also I'd seen her at the gym. She had even started exercising. I mean, most people, it's like pulling teeth to try to get them to exercise here, but she was even exercising, and I had seen her at the YMCA. So I knew she wasn't lying. And she had been meticulously keeping her food logs. And I'm like, yeah, this is looking good. And she was really frustrated because we're not getting anywhere, And so I'm like, well, and I'm the zebra hunter. So I start thinking of these weird, monogenic diabetes of the young. I'm thinking about HNF4 alpha mutations and glucokinase mutations and thinking about getting her GAT65 antibodies and all these protein tyrosine antibodies and things like that. And then I'm like, hold on, that's probably not necessary. And I ask her, do you have sleep apnea? And she's like, I don't think so. And she didn't fit the bill. Most people with sleep apnea, they've got a neck that's like bigger than my waist and stuff. And it's like, well, it's pretty obvious. A person probably does. Sure. And so, but this gal didn't really fit the usual bill as far as the phenotype. And so I was like, I think you might have sleep apnea. Let's get you a sleep study. And she had severe sleep apnea. And so then she gets a CPAP. And then after her 3-month follow-up, after using the CPAP, her A1C was down to 5.8. Wow. And so, but that's a huge example of you can be doing the right things. You can even be on some awesome medications, which I had her on some awesome medications, and you can be doing the right diet. You can even be exercising. And if you're not sleeping, if your body's stressed when it should be at rest, you're never going to get anywhere when it comes to metabolism. And I feel like that's a parallel to spiritual wellness as well, because you can do all the right things. You can try to be a good person. You can do all these altruistic things and, meditate on something and try to think positive thoughts and fill your mind with chicken soup for the soul books and whatnot. But I believe that if first your trust is not in the one who lived the sinless life you and I never could, died the criminal's death that you and I deserve, and then defeated the power of sin and death by rising on the cross, you're never going to get anywhere. Your rest must first be in what Christ did on your behalf. And so that's what I believe. And I believe that that's no coincidence. And that's how I end my book. And I think it's poetic, and I think it's beautiful, and it's beautiful to be able to rest in those promises, and also just to get that beautiful rest that we all need in order to optimize our metabolic health. And when people meet me, they're like, wow, that guy's crazy and he's got crazy hair and all those things. And they wonder, they often ask me, do you ever sleep? Because when I'm awake, I'm pretty energetic. Oh, I sleep like a champ. When it's time to hit the pillow, I'm out, and so no, it's all good. And then when you're able to get that adequate sleep, you wake up, and every day is a delicious opportunity to go and hopefully have some fun and help some people while you're at it.